So today we are going to make hummus, pitta to the Yotamatalengi recipe, and sweet potato falafels. Are people ready to kick off?
Let's kick off.
Actually, everyone's
kick.
muted. So everybody's muted.
Put a thumbs up on your screen if you're ready to kick off.
So I am going to start straight away with the yeast. So I'm going to start.
Hold on. Oh, there you go. You had stopped the video, Sasha.
No, it's just because Daddy put the app off for a second because he's
Sorry.
Oh, one question, Josh. Are we recording this?
We're recording, yes.
Fantastic.
I'll start recording.
No, I think Josh has got
Starting with,
Great.
Sasha, what are you starting with?
Okay, so I'm going to start off with the yeast. I'm going to start off with the pitta, and then while the dough's mixing, you will need a mixer for the dough. Then we're going to do the falafel piece. Okay, so the first thing you need to do for the bread, for the pitta, is to start off the yeast. So you're going to get 240 millilitres approximately of warm water.
Sasha, I haven't got a mixer, so what do I do? Just do it by hand?
You could totally do it by hand, but it's going to be a little bit, it'll be a good workout.
Ready.
Which is fine. In order to kind of make this work for an hour, sorry, just measuring this out. I've kind of made things happen quite quickly, so the timing may or may not kind of totally work out, but it'll be a good workout. It's 7 minutes of kneading. Right, where is my, so you're going to start off with your 240 grams of lukewarm water. Then yeast, very prized during lockdown, but Pat, I know you bought a 500-gram thing, so did I. So I'm repeating.
Sasha, if you haven't got a dough hook, can you use a Magimix?
I tend to do it with a dough hook. I haven't tried it with the Magimix, but you could totally try it. I don't know whether it'll give it quite the workout. So what I might be inclined to do is do it with the regular Magimix for kind of 2 or 3 minutes just to incorporate it, and then kind of knead it by hand. So you're doing 2 teaspoons of yeast, then you are doing 2 teaspoons of sugar. There you go. Then you're gonna mix that just to let it and leave it.
It's tablespoons, isn't it, of sugar?
It's teaspoons. Am I right? What am I saying? Teaspoons. It's 2 teaspoons of dried yeast and 2 teaspoons of caster sugar. Fast action yeast. I've got the Allinson's, or that very nice red one of the 500 grams, but it's teaspoons. So we're going to leave that for a few minutes. And what I'm going to do, I've been experimenting with fast rising bread. In regular circumstances, I would knead the dough for 7 minutes and then leave it for a couple of hours to rise, which is fine when you're at home all day. But because we haven't got a couple of hours, I've been experimenting with this fast rising. Hello, am I talking too fast? Okay, I'm looking at the camera. I'm getting on-screen videography direction. So here is a little trick I learned. I'm just going to move backwards, sweetie, about how to do a speedy rise on dough. So you put your oven on at the lowest thing. So I'm putting my oven on for 60, just for 2 minutes. So I've got an Alexa, which we renamed computer because I don't really like shouting at women. I don't really like shouting at anyone. Computer, oven timer, 2 minutes, please. Oven timer, 2 minutes. There we go. So you let that heat up for 2 minutes, and then you get a bowl and sort of fill it with hot water. I just boiled this kettle a few minutes ago.
Sasha, what are you putting in the oven?
So what I'm doing is I'm putting a bowl of hot water into an oven that's just going to be on for 2 minutes. So it's to create a kind of moist atmosphere so you can fast rise, you can do a fast rise for the dough. Okay. If you're doing this another time, you don't need to do this. You can just leave it to rise for 2 hours and it's completely fine. But what I'm doing now is we're putting this into the oven and letting the oven get warm really just for a couple of minutes. Whilst that is happening, a little stir of our yeast. I'm going to measure out the flour. So it's 350 grams of plain flour is what I'm going to use. I haven't experimented with strong flour. Someone asked me that earlier. Now I'm doing this with all white flour. You can do it with 300 grams of plain flour and 50 grams of wholemeal flour. Wholemeal flour is in short supply. The last bag I found in Moishes, I gave to Rob Goldschmidt because the Goldschmidt bakery is very important. So I'm going to do 350 grams of plain flour. So I'm just measuring this out. So I've only been doing this for a few weeks. It's been one of my lockdown experiments. I make challah every week in the bread machine, but I don't usually do kind of regular bread making, but actually this is pretty easy. Okay, so I need computer stop. Computer stop. So your oven's been on for 2 minutes just to give it a little bit of heat, and now you're going to turn it off. The oven timer is on. Okay, so I've weighed out 350 grams of flour, and then I'm going to add to that a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to do a teaspoon of salt. And then I am going to do a tablespoon of olive oil. Surprisingly, oh, where's my tablespoon? Here it is. Surprisingly, I really like the Aldi Celesta extra virgin olive oil, which is remarkably inexpensive and great for salads and baking. So I'm just doing a tablespoon in there. So there we go. How am I doing for time? Okay. So you can see that this has kind of risen a little bit in terms of the yeast. I'd actually like it to rise a little bit more. So I'm going to give it another couple of minutes, and I'm going to start with the sweet potato falafel. So, I'm just going to the fridge, sweetie. Set this now. So, I've always wanted to say, here's what I prepared earlier. So I hope that you had a chance earlier on today to roast your sweet potato and mash it so it looks something like that. Just step back because I'm going to get in the oven. So I've actually got a sweet potato here in the oven. So you should have done something like this. And then it's really as simple as putting it in the oven. That actually needs another few minutes. But basically, you put that in the oven for 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the size of the sweet potato. And then when it's quite soft, when you put a fork in, and it's soft, this one has still got a little bit too much give, then you just cut it open, scoop out the inside and mash it together. So I'm going to leave that in there for a little bit, but I'm going to start doing the dough because I don't want this to get delayed. So in a moment I'm going to come back to the sweet potato falafels, but I'm going to start on the dough. So I've taken the frothy yeast mixture. It's quite frothy, but not as frothy as it always is, so we'll see what happens here. I'm pouring that into the flour, salt, and oil. I love these spatulas. I am a real, I think my mum taught me that whole kind of waste not, want not. So, right, so now we're going to take that to the KitchenAid. Hey Josh, sweetie, have I got my KitchenAid assistant, please? Thank you. One KitchenAid assistant coming right up. So I'm using a dough hook here for 7 minutes. That's okay, I think you'll be all right. So
with the sweet potato.
So we're just letting it combine.
Well, how's this become? Oh.
If you put the red pan on 7 minutes. So Josh, sweetie, if you can hold on to this, that would be great. Okay.
Let's give it the top.
So we're just letting that. Now it's combining. I'm putting it on a higher setting so that it goes pretty quickly. I'm just going to cover it up so it's not so noisy while we're doing the other stuff. So if you can hold on to it so it doesn't move.
You told me I should use that this.
So you've got your mashed sweet potatoes. Okay, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, now we can. We're not
Okay.
walking away from the camera.
Great.
Well,
So we have put
is
the
mixer still
dough
going,
on for
Sasha?
7 minutes.
Sasha, the mixer's still going.
So the dough is still going. Josh, you can't use this too thick.
Okay, right.
You don't need that whole thing. Don't waste your time with that now that you've messed up.
So the dough is on for 7 minutes while I'm doing the sweet potato falafel. For those of you who are hand kneading, you might be doing this at a slightly different pace. But is it okay if I move on to the sweet potato falafel? So
When I'm kneading it, I should be pummeling it with my hands, you mean, rather than just mixing it?
yeah, I think kneading is very much about pummeling. I mean, the thing about bread is that you want to get the gluten in the flour, like really sort of exercise. So you need to keep sort of, it's a good workout. And if you're feeling slightly angry or just frustrated by things happening in the world, it's quite a good way to kind of get all that out. But it is very much about working the dough so that it really creates gluten.
Salt, please get the salt.
Sasha?
Yes?
Mine's stuck to my hands. Is it too sticky?
No, I mean, you could, you know, put a little bit of flour on the work surface and put a little bit of flour on your hands and just keep working it, because it can start off sticky, but then it should come together. I'm just asking my erstwhile kitchen assistant to hold on to the thing.
Sugar again. And not only that, this I put gluten.
Right, so we're now taking the sweet potato, which is mashed, and we're going to mix it with the cumin. So I'm going to put in 1.5 teaspoons of cumin. When it comes to spices, I'm always a little bit on the generous side. So if it says 1.5, that is 1. I'm going to do like a 1 3/4. I think kind of the tam, just, you know, how it tastes, always needs a little bit of extra. Ground cumin. Now we need some ground coriander.
You mean coriander? I didn't know because it's 4:20 this up.
That sounds right.
Okay. I don't have my ground coriander, but I am just going to chop my fresh coriander.
Ground coriander.
So I've got a handful of coriander here, which is a mixture of supermarket and actually one of our lockdown things.
Hey, Sasha, can I just ask you, how much ground coriander and how much ground cumin are we putting in?
Okay, so you're putting in 1.5 tablespoons of ground cumin and 1.5 tablespoons of ground coriander.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, plus a handful of coriander leaves. So I am just chopping my ground coriander leaves.
Teaspoon or tablespoon? Sorry to interrupt, because the recipe said teaspoon.
Yeah, it's definitely teaspoons. So it's teaspoons. So it's teaspoons, 1.5 teaspoons of ground coriander, 1.5 teaspoons of ground cumin. And then I'm also mixing into it a couple of handfuls of fresh coriander. Some of this we grew in our garden. That's been one of our nice little lockdown things. Josh and I have been growing herbs. We grew a few. The coriander was the most successful. Oh, and we're growing potatoes as well, which we have not yet tried. So you're going to get, so this is going to give it a really nice fresh, this is going to give it a really nice fresh colour. This is an Allegra McEvedy recipe. She's one of the founders of Leon, very involved in the kind of fresh food movement. And what I like about it is it's kind of a contemporary take on falafel. It's got the ground flour, but not real chickpeas. So I'm putting in my ground coriander. I am getting 2 cloves
Sasha,
of
we
garlic.
get gram flour. Can we substitute anything for that?
Substitute anything for
Gram flour. We didn't even know what it was.
ground flour. So, I mean, ground flour is what makes it chickpea-ish because it's effectively ground chickpeas. If you wanted to substitute something, you could substitute rice flour if you have rice flour.
Yeah, we got rice flour.
Probably substitute regular flour.
Well, we use rice flour. That's fine. Thank you.
Tony,
Yeah.
How much ground flour are we using, Sasha?
So we're going to use 120 grams of ground flour.
Okay, so Tony, if you want, do you want me to come across the road with it?
Oh, I love that.
and
Oh, we miss living locally.
We've got rice flour. It's a lovely offer. If rice flour is just as good, we'll manage. But
I mean, I think rice flour will very probably work. It might not taste quite so chickpea-ish, but it will probably taste delicious.
can I
I
stop
leave
right here?
So I am chopping.
Hey, Tony, you know, if you have dried lentils, you can throw them in the blender and they're a pretty good facsimile because gram flour has lentil flour in it in addition to chickpea
Oh,
flour.
okay, that's a great idea. Thank you,
Okay,
Josh.
Josh, is that green lentils or red?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, thank you.
So I've chopped 2 cloves of garlic into there. Computer stop. So let's see. I'm going to pause that for a moment.
Very tasty. It's very tasty.
Okay. So that is how the dough is looking. So this is how the dough is looking after some good kneading. You can see it's quite stretchy. And so what I'm doing here is just oiling a bowl to let it rise, just a drop of olive oil. Move that around in the bowl. And then we're gonna take this. Can you see how the dough is quite stretchy? I think that's what shows you that the kind of gluten is really working. So I'm just gonna take all of this. There we go.
Whoa.
So I'm taking that dough and just putting it into the bowl. So you can see it's got a nice stretch. It's kind of sticking to the bowl a little bit. There we go. Can you turn that off because it's noisy? Thanks, sweetie. So what I'm going to do now is a fast rise in our slightly steamy oven. So that's how the dough's looking now.
How steamy is
And I'm going to take it over to that oven that I put on just for 2 minutes at the lowest setting, 60. And I've left that bowl of water in there. So now it's kind of like a hot, steamy environment. And I'm going to leave that in there for 20 minutes. So computer, bread timer, 20 minutes.
Bread timer, 20 minutes. Starting now.
I'm just going to the fridge. So now, when you're not doing this at this sort of speed, you could just do that if you wanted pitta for lunch. You could just do that in the morning and then just leave it in a kind of warm place to rise with a tea towel over it for a couple of hours. But in order to kind of show you everything, I'm doing it this way. Let's see how it works out. So we are back to our sweet potato falafel. We've got the falafel, we've got the sweet potato, the cumin, the coriander, chopped garlic, fresh coriander, I'm now going to add the juice of half a lemon.
Sasha, how much chopped garlic?
So it's 2 garlic cloves, and you're just going to chop them up.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now, our lockdown secret is we've been having a lot of G&Ts, and so we have lots of lemons in our fridge where we've used the lemon peel for our artistic. Here we do juniper berries and lemon peel in our G&Ts. That works very well, but it means we've got lots of lemons to use up. So I'm taking half a lemon, and I'm just going to squeeze the juice of that. Okay, so we're putting in the juice of half a lemon. See how that is looking. Okay, so I'm pouring that juice of half a lemon in there as well. I'm going to put a splash of olive oil. Let me just put my olive oil back. Use olive oil. So a little splash of olive oil. Of course, I'm just going to do a little bit of salt. I mean, probably something. I'm renowned for under-seasoning things. So I've put in a bit less than maybe half a teaspoon. You might want to put more. Little bit of pepper. And now we're going to put in the gram flour, which you might substitute with rice flour, or I learned a new trick from Josh just now, that I can do red lentils in the mixer. So I'm now measuring out 120 grams of gram flour. So gram flour is, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to measure out 100 and just see how it goes so I can show you the texture. Because all sweet potatoes are different, some have more water than others. So I'm going to start with 100 and we're just going to mix this and see how it goes. So you can see that the gram flour is a kind of fine yellow powder. So it's the kind of milled chickpeas. So I'm just mixing that together till you get a kind of loose mixture. I think the secret to this is it's going to be loose when you're making the falafel shapes. That's kind of the nature of it. And you don't want to put too much flour in it because then when they're baked, they can be pretty solid. So,
Sasha, how much was it of the gram or rice flour?
So 120 grams. What I've done is I've just put in 100 grams to see what it feels like. So you can see that it's kind of holding together, but it's not too tight. So I'm just going to put in the remaining 20 grams. And then, so I'm just doing that tiny little bit more. Thank you very much, sweetie. So, so I'm just mixing that in. And this is pretty easy. What I love about this is that once it's done, it only takes 15 minutes to bake in the oven. And they actually freeze pretty well afterwards. So it makes quite a lot, but it depends how many people you got coming for lunch. Nowadays, not more than one other family. Okay, so that's the kind of look and texture. I'm just going to hold that up so people can see, sweetie, that it's kind of holding together, but it's not super solid. So that's the kind of texture we're looking for. Right, let me just see where I'm at. Okay, so now we're going to put the falafel on trays ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to put the oven on, let me just check, 220. So the oven is on at 220. And now you're going to take baking trays and I'm going to show you how to kind of shape them with 2 spoons. So you're going to get...
Sorry, I thought the bread was in the oven. In the oven.
So I've got 2 ovens, but everything's... So I've got 2 ovens.
What if you don't have 2 ovens?
If you don't have 2 ovens, I would take the bread out and put the oven on 220 and cover the bowl with a tea towel near the oven so that it can rise at a slightly slower pace.
Okay, fine.
Okay. So, right. So now I'm going to make little semi-falafel shapes like this and just put them onto some nice greaseproof paper. So I'm just going to do that slowly. We've got nice. So if you can get them so that the shape, you put them on one spoon and then you turn it onto the other spoon so you get a kind of standardized shape as much as you can. I've tried doing this I've never had success with like traditional Israeli falafel. It's something I've got to learn, but I have tried doing this if you have it in a falafel shaper. And I've not had success with it because I think that it's too wet a mixture compared to traditional kind of chickpea falafel. Okay, so we're just going to do a few more of these. How are people doing? Are people at the same pace as me, or do I need to slow down?
So Sasha, we're kind of on target because Alyssa's been helping me, and we managed to redo it after I put sugar in instead of flour. But apart from that, we are actually doing well. But we've got loads to do. It's going to take ages to do these.
Okay. So
I think Sasha, it's Joe, you're going quite fast. If you could slow down, that'd be great.
Okay, so I will try and slow down. So I am making these. I mean, during lockdown, we've had a lot of hummus and a lot of falafel. And actually, I taught Josh how to make hummus. So now on a Friday, he is making the hummus, which is very exciting. So what I am loving about the pandemic experience is we're in Finchley now, and it's just a little bit too far to walk on a Shabbat and be with you guys. But it is wonderful that I can come to Havdalah and come to the events and online and still be kind of part of the community. I've really, really enjoyed that. And I kind of hope when life returns to whatever the new normal is like, I kind of hope that I'll be able to carry on doing those things because it's been really wonderful. And we're involved in a few communities, like Kinloss is our main shul here in Finchley, but we also have a bit of a relationship with New North London. And I've been really wowed by, I think, you guys, like this is your shul, but I've been really wowed by the amazing community experience of Shomrei in lockdown. It's really felt very special. So I was very happy to be invited to do this. Right, so I've got one tray, which looks like that. I'm just going to put that over there and do a second tray. So I've done 16. I think it usually makes 20, 24, something like that. Let's see how we get on today. So these don't grow, so you can put them quite close together. When they bake in the oven, they just bake in the oven. So it's not like cookies where you've got to spread them out because they're going to rise. So trusty spatula. So looks like I'm going to end up with about 20. So, right, this is my last one. And then when I finish this, we're going to decorate them with sesame seeds and then just put them in the oven. So, here we go. That is the last one. Right, so we have got 2 trays of these, which look something like this. It doesn't really matter if they're not uniform. What I love about homemade food is it feels homemade. I love it when it's not perfect. These definitely do that. Now you're just going to sprinkle. These are just regular sesame seeds. I use them on a Shabbos, and I'm just putting a few sesame seeds on the top. And then my oven is on 20. So my oven is on 20. So okay, so now the oven actually is at 200 for baking these, and they're just going to be in for around 15 minutes. So my oven's at 200, and we've got 2 trays. I'm going to take out the sweet potato that I had earlier, which is in here. So that's going in for 15 minutes. Computer, falafel timer, 15 minutes, please.
Falafel timer, 15 minutes, starting now.
Sasha,
Yeah?
are you able just to give us a minute to catch up? I'm still doing my spoon things.
Okay, no problem. While you're catching up, I'm just going to take a look at the dough, see how it's looking. So you can see that our dough is kind of slowly just rising there. So dough usually gets 2 rises. So we're doing the first rise, a kind of speedy rise in the oven, and then we're just going to let it rest when we've made it into balls for 5 or 10 minutes and take it from there. So where are we up to? While I am waiting for people, are people needing a few minutes to catch up? So I'm just, whilst I'm putting, going to toast the pine nuts, which are for decorating, decorating the hummus later on. So, small pan. This is my pine nut toasting pan. So you're just going to let those toast for a minute. You don't have to toast your pine nuts, but I feel like all nuts are a little bit nicer if they're toasted. We quite often have like toasted cashew nuts. So just leave them for a minute or so till they catch. I'm just going to clean up here. Right. How are people doing? Do they need, how are you doing, Arié?
I'm catching up. I'm almost there.
Okay, brilliant, brilliant. So this, so I'm just going to show you this. So this is the sweet potato that I cooked. I know that most of you have done this, but just to show you kind of how it is.
Well, are we doing this?
I know you've done this already, but basically you're just scooping out that sweet potato. It's pretty easy once it's baked. It's pretty soft, and you're just kind of scooping it out of there. So, that's doing. So, I kind of like to pretend that, you know, like I grew up in some sort of Ottolenghi world, but I grew up in Cheadle where we didn't know from hummus. We were about.
You grew up in Cheadle?
Yeah. I grew up in Cheadle, yes.
Yeah. Sorry.
What did they say? So I grew up in Cheadle where we didn't know from hummus, and I have to say that when my parents visit, bless them, they're very forgiving about my largely vegetarian cuisine, which they regard mostly as a side dish. Whenever, I mean, my mum's got dementia now, unfortunately, but when she was well, you know, we'd have that like, what are you making for Shabbos conversation? And I'd tell her all my like complex 15 ingredient ottolenghi salads, which, you know, I really like making in the previous world. And I'd kind of talk her through everything, and then she'd say, with what? But now hummus is a pretty important part of our cuisine here in the Shefs household. So you can see that the nuts are kind of turning slightly, and so now's a good time to just turn them down. I mean, I'm sure you all know how to toast nuts, although I do burn them quite often. I remember when I was pregnant with Josh, so 12 years ago, and we were at Shomrei, hummus is like, when I was pregnant, all I could eat was hummus. I was completely obsessive. And when it got to Pesach, I was like 6 months pregnant, 5 months pregnant, and I just didn't know what I was going to do without hummus. And Rav Fachler, Zichron Lebracha, who I loved very much, he was my wonderful Rav. Anyway, I asked him in Charlotte, he was always like so forgiving. And I'm like, can I eat hummus on Pesach? And he's like, no, Sasha, you cannot eat hummus on Pesach. Okay, so our pine nuts are toasted. Aryeh, how are you doing? Have you caught up? So
Yeah, we're good. Thank you, Sasha.
Cool. No problem. Right, so we've got a few pine nuts, and when you come to decorate, you might toast your pine nuts, you might not. How's everybody else doing? How's everybody else doing?
You might be muted.
We're all muted, but thumbs up.
Yeah. Okay, that's good, because I can't see because Darren's doing that. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to shape the dough for the pitot. So
That's something that's burning. There's some sizzle.
no, I think that's okay just because it's hot.
So,
It's hot. So what we're going to do here is right. So we're going to shape the. Okay, we're going to shape the pitta now. So I'm just going to put a little bit of flour on my work surface. So there we go. I'm going to take this dough, which has risen quite nicely. So I'm just going to put it out here on the work surface, and we're going to cut it into 8 balls. So there we go. You could, if you wanted to, weigh them and measure them. And when I'm making colour and doing kind of strands for them to be equal, I kind of do, but I think for this, not such a big deal. So I'm just cutting it into 8. Like so. And you can tell it's got a bit of a spring to it. So everything is pretty much as it should be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so I'm just going to turn these into nice little balls. Just step back so I'm going to get a tray. So I'm going to take a tray that I've prepared with some greaseproof paper and just a tiny bit of flour so it doesn't stick too much. And then you're just going to make the balls and put them on the tray. So I find working with dough very therapeutic, I have to say. And I felt in the last few weeks of just spending a lot of time at home, a kind of back to the earth, homemade activities.
Your bread timer is up.
Computer stop. So my computer agrees that the bread has risen. Now I'm doing this a little bit fast to get it done in the time. And so I think it does work like this, but you can equally do it in a more relaxed way and leave it for a couple of hours to rise naturally. But this way you get to see pretty much how it all works. So now I've got my 8 balls. Don't worry if they're not perfect, because we're going to just gently roll them out before we put them in the oven. So I've got my 8 balls, taking a clean tea towel, and I'm just covering them with a clean tea towel and just leaving them somewhere kind of warm. So I'm leaving it on top of the oven. Those more health and safety oriented might be nervous, but I'm okay with it. So we have the sweet potato falafels in the oven. How are people doing with their rolling their pitta balls?
About to start the rolling here.
Okay, we're not gonna, all you're doing now is just rolling them into balls like this. We're gonna roll them with a rolling pin later. So we're gonna leave them for 5 or 10 minutes, actually while we make the hummus, and then we're gonna put them in the oven. So I'm just gonna clean up the flour here, and then we're gonna make hummus, which is one of my absolute favourite things. So just up here, great. So on to hummus. So you're going to need a blender to make your hummus. This is my trusty Braun blender, which I've actually had since I lived in Shoot Up Hill. I remember walking to Shulwood Shabbat, the Lister and Ariete, and just bumping into you in a Shulwood way. In fact, I've had a relationship with this hummus making blender for, I think your mum is saying this, sweetie, longer than Darren, as I have had this blender for 25 years. I don't make it anymore. I do worry what's going to happen when it eventually breaks. Right. So we're going to make hummus. Hummus is about chickpeas. I am really happy to use tin chickpeas. You may find that you want to cook chickpeas. Over the years, I've been through kind of quite a lot of variations. I've got a slow cooker. You can, not a slow cooker, pressure cooker. You can cook them in the pressure cooker. You need to do them for about 25 minutes so they're soft. In my experience, the cheaper the chickpea tins, the softer the chickpeas are. So the East End brand that you often get in Tesco's or in corner stores, this is the Summer Pride one. The really expensive Shishi Waitrose chickpeas aren't cooked for as long. So I tend to go for the cheapest 25, 30p type chickpeas because those in my experience work the best. So the basic proportions.
How much chickpeas do you want?
So 1 tin is 400 grams of tin, but it's actually 240 grams of chickpeas.
We want 2 tins.
2 tins, exactly. 2 tins is perfect.
400.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that is 800 with water, 480 without water. So 2 tins, garlic, clove for each, some cumin. So you're going to have 2 tins, a garlic clove for each, some cumin, some soy or some salt, some olive oil. So the soy sauce, I tend to use soy sauce, but you can use salt as well or a mixture. Lemon juice, and I'm just going to get my tahina out of the fridge. I really, really like the Achva tahina. I think it's, in my experience, the best brand. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to just chop the ends off your garlic cloves. Can you say that again? Sorry?
Sorry. Nothing.
Okay, no problem. So first of all, you take your 2 cloves of garlic, put them in the blender. Okay, so now I'm going to open the tins of chickpeas. One of the things that I discovered in the last couple of years is aquafaba, previously known as the waste product of tins of chickpeas. You might know this already, but for those of you who are kind of vegetarian or vegan minded, Aquafaba has many of the properties of egg whites when whipped. And so I have experimented with putting aquafaba in challah instead of eggs. I've made aquafaba meringues, which astonishingly were really very nice. So you've got your 2 tins of chickpeas. So you've already minced the garlic. Then you're going to put in 1 whole tin of chickpeas. And then you're going to put in most of the second tin, but you're going to leave a few for decorating it later on in the traditional Israeli style. So I'm just leaving a few chickpeas for decoration later. So then you're going to blend that. Might be a bit noisy, sorry.
Sorry, Sasha, what did you put? Chickpeas and garlic and what?
So in here we've got 2 cloves of garlic.
Yeah.
And most of 2 tins of chickpeas.
Right, I only got 1 then, right? Yeah.
But you could do 1, you can totally do 1 clove of garlic and 1 tin of chickpeas. It's totally fine. I'm just doing a double recipe. So it's completely fine.
Anything else in there at the moment?
Not yet. So all we've got in here is 1 clove of garlic and 1 tin of chickpeas.
Your falafel timer is up.
Okay, we're just going to pause and take a look at those falafels. Let me put my oven gloves. There we go. So we're just pausing on the hummus. And we're going to see how our falafels are looking. So the secret to knowing if these are cooked is to gently lift them up and see if they are browned underneath, which they are, looking pretty perfect. So I'm going.
Shall I just take the
What do you want to do?
plastic folder off there?
Oh, that's a good idea. Thank you. Something like that. Right. So those are done, which is great. We're going to leave them to cool for a minute. If you've used 1 oven, then you might want to put your oven up a little bit. So it's been on 200 to cook those. And for the pitta, in a little bit, Yotam, my great friend, says highest oven possible. I tend to do kind of 240 or 260. So once they've come out of the oven, you can turn it up a little bit. How are people doing there? Have people got falafels? I'd love to see them.
Sasha, how do you know if the falafel's ready?
So the way you know that the falafel is ready is that you just lift them up gently with the side of a knife, very gently. And I'm just going to turn this one upside down, and you can see that it's brown underneath. Does that make sense? Okay, so actually these, so it still feels a little bit soft, which is fine, but they are brown underneath. So if I turn this one over, there you go. So that's what you're looking for. How are people's falafel doing?
Mine needs a few more minutes.
Okay. So if they're not...
We also need some more time, Fars. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's fine. You can put them back for a few minutes. While you're putting those back in the oven, let's go back to the hummus. So we have had 1 tin of chickpeas per 1 clove of garlic, which is what's in there. You mince the garlic first, then you put the chickpeas in. Now I'm going to put in a little bit of the magical liquid aquafaba. You're just going to put in a tiny bit at a time. So I've just put in that much.
Sorry, what have you got there? What is that?
It's the juice from the chickpeas.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, say that again.
It's the juice from the chickpea can.
It's the juice from the chickpea can, yes. So you've kept the juice from the chickpea can, and that's what you're using to put in there.
And Sasha, if we use freshly cooked ones, what juice do we get?
Hold on a second. Sorry, go on, whoever was talking.
You drain them off and then keep the juice, Ariel.
Yeah, so you drain off the chickpeas and then you keep the juice. So I just kept the juice in a little container, which looks a little bit like this. I mean, if you didn't keep the juice, you know, you could put some water in, so don't worry, but I think it gives it extra flavour to keep the juice. So the great thing about hummus is that you can make it any way you want. That's why I love making it, because you can get, you know, your hummus the way you like it. If you have like a favourite falafel bar in Yerushalayim, you can make it taste like that. So this is, Darren, if you can get a bit closer. This is the sort of texture that I've got to for now before I add the tahina. So you can see it's not super thin. It's still quite, you don't want it too liquidy. And now I'm going to add some tahina. The secret to this is you can always add more liquid, but it's kind of hard to take it away. So approximately 2 tablespoons of tahina per 1 tin of chickpeas. So I've done 2 tins of chickpeas. I'm going to do 4 tablespoons. So that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that. I think this. How are people doing with that? I think if you like a kind of Israeli Lebanese style hummus, then you probably want more tahina. If you like a more Greek style hummus, you probably want less tahina and more lemon juice, but you're going to make it the way you like it. You can't really get it wrong.
Four tablespoons. I think we've got this. Yes, sir.
Okay, so some people like a kind of chunky hummus, some people like something a little bit smoother, so you can really make it work.
Well, I'm going to get you see if we manage to see each other on Friday.
Okay, so that's kind of how it's looking now. And now I'm going to add in some more lemon juice. So I'm squeezing the rest of our G&T style lemons. So at this stage, the texture of the hummus is a little bit thick because you're going to add some more liquid. You're going to add lemon juice, you're going to add olive oil, you're going to add either soy sauce. I tend to use a gluten-free one in case people are gluten-free, but you might add salt as well. So we've got lemon juice. So not a huge amount to start off with, because the secret to this is tasting it. You are the person who knows how you like it. So this is very much a kind of taste test thing. So we've got the clove of garlic, the tin of chickpeas, the 2 tablespoons of tahina, the lemon juice. Now we're going to add a little bit of soy sauce, or you could also add salt. And something that for 1 tin of chickpeas is maybe half a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of cumin. So I'm just adding some cumin. Hey, can we get our taster in here? Will you just see if Josh, are you available to taste some hummus? Oh, we have our magic hummus taster. So a little splash of olive oil. Okay, give me 1 sec, sweetie. So that's got all the ingredients in. Now we're going to have a little taste. Tell me what you think, sweetie. You think more salt?
Yeah.
Once more. So it's all about taste. That is the fun about making your own hummus. So Josh thinks.
But don't eat the whole thing, because then there won't be any out.
So I think this needs a little bit more lemon juice, and a little splash of olive oil extra. And I'm going to put, Josh thought, a little bit more salt. We had COVID in early March, and I have to say that my sense of taste has not entirely returned. So it's great to have a bit of assistance. Josh, will you come back and taste this? Tell me what you think. Okay.
Nice.
Try that. What do you think? Tell people in Shomrei. You think that's nice? Okay, put the spoon in the sink, sweetie. Well, you'll be able to have it later. You can put it for lunch tomorrow. Okay, so.
Chef's kiss.
So, I'm just going to put but that is basically hummus. How are people doing with their hummus? Let's pause and see where people are up to. How are we doing? Are we getting any
I think
thumbs
people
up?
might be muted.
Aha. Okay, let's take a look at our dough rolls. So you can see that our dough rolls have risen a little bit there. We're going to come back to those in a minute. But in the meantime, I'm just going to put the falafel ready for later on. So let's just take our falafels and display them in a nice way. This is a lovely bowl that some friends bought us when they came to stay for Shabbat. I had a salad in it, and it fell repair to make it look even more beautiful. You can see this gold. I'm just going to turn it on. So, got my falafels. Do you think that's from that? No, I think the light's good. Okay, so we have got our falafel looking pretty good. Okay, so those are finished falafel. I'm going to put those on the table. We will catch up with them later on. Okay, so our dough rolls are rising. Our hummus is pretty much made. We're going to put it out in a moment. So what I am going to do now is roll out. So is everybody happy for me to carry on with the pitta, or are people still making their hummus?
I'm getting some thumbs up.
Okay, so I'm leaving the hummus in the blender for now. We're going to put it out while the pitta is in the oven. But in the meantime, where is it's here. So I'm just going to get a little bit of flour. And so the secret to the pittot is to cook them on a hot tray. So I'm taking an oven tray with some greaseproof paper, and I'm just putting that in the hot oven. I'm actually doing 2 while I prepare the pitta. So a little bit more flour so we can roll these out. Oh, excuse me, sweetie. Here we go. So this is how they're looking now. They've risen a little bit.
They have risen.
They have risen. So be a little bit delicate when you're picking these up. I tend to turn them upside down because the bottom is quite easy. It's going to be a little less sticky. And I'm just going to gently roll these out. Now, in my experience, you know, part of what makes it have a pocket is that you don't really roll it out in a hardcore way. You want to do it very gentle because you want to leave a little bit of that air inside. So I've got 1, 2. So I'm just really rolling it quite gently to try and leave the pocket inside. And so while you're rolling these out, the oven pan is warming up so that you kind of cook them on a hot oven. I've not got a pizza oven, but I guess it's possible. You could also do it like in a pizza oven type setup. So the size that you roll them out to is pretty much the size they'll be. So how are people doing with these? Are people, oh, these two are stuck together. Doesn't matter, part of the homemade magic. You never want it to look like it came from a shop, right? You want it to look individually handcrafted. I'm always delighted when things don't go totally to plan. Okay. Darren's saying, really? Those of you who know me well know that I am a little bit of a perfectionist. Although, as we have quite a lot less control over the world than we used to have, I am working on letting go of that. So here's the last one that I'm just rolling out. There we go. Right, I'm just going to put the flour away, make a bit more space. So we've got our 8 rolled out pitot. This away. And let's see how hot. So we have now some hot baking sheets. Put these on. So I'm going to do one first. So I've done 2 trays. I'm just going to do. Yotam suggests that you sprinkle the baking tray with flour. Our junior pizza eater does not like them too floury, so I haven't been doing that. So that's 1 going in the oven on a hot tray. And then just take the other tray out. I'm putting the second one on. 2. Just make sure those aren't touching. So, putting the second one in the oven. So those are in a hot oven for 4.5 to 5 minutes. Computer.
Oven, Sasha? Sorry.
So that's an oven. It's a hot oven at 240.
240.
But computer, pitta timer, 4.5 minutes, please.
How long?
4.5 minutes, please.
Pizza timer, 30 seconds. Starting now.
Computer, stop the timer.
Pizza timer cancelled.
Computer, pitta timer, 4.5 minutes.
4 minutes and 30 seconds. Starting now.
My Alexa does not understand me saying pitta, but she really understands me saying pizza. Right, so now, while those are in the oven, we're just going to put the hummus out. The all-important displaying beautifully. Right, so you've made your hummus, you've tasted it, you've fine-tuned it to how you like it, and now we're going to do the all-important making it look fabulous. For many years, I wanted those cool bowls that they have in Israeli hummus bars, you know, those like brown and beige little bowls. I've tried so hard to find them. unsuccessfully. But this is one of my favourite hummus bowls. I think if you really get into making hummus, like I know that this is a 2 tins of chickpea hummus bowl. There you go. So you're going to put that in the bowl. Take the back of a tablespoon and just gently turn the bowl around so you're making like a little dip in the middle. This is the kind of traditional Israeli hummus in fnoba, pine nuts. So, delicious. So, you're going to take the reserved chickpeas and just sprinkle them on the top, like that. And then you can decorate it any way you want. I tend to decorate it with a splash of extra virgin olive oil, just a little bit, because when you put the za'atar on top, it just looks really, really super nice. So a little bit of olive oil. Za'atar. In London, I think the best za'atar you can get is the Perig, which is in all the kosher shops. You're not going to sprinkle it through the holes, it kind of comes out weird. My friend Janice Kay in Israel, some of you might know her, sells za'atar online, which is fabulous. And when she visits, she always sends me some, which is kind of genuine Israeli style za'atar. So you're just going to sprinkle a little bit of za'atar. It's quite nice when it mixes with the olive oil. So a little bit of za'atar. And then you're going to take the pine nuts, the snowbar that you prepared earlier, maybe quite a few, and you're just going to sprinkle those around the edge. And there you go. Some nice hummus. I'm going to put that on the table, and then we're going to see how we're doing with our tots. How are you doing, Susie? Okay, computer, how long have you got on timer? So we've got a minute or so left on the pitta.
Sasha, you may want to look at there were some results there on the screen.
Oh, I'd love to see how people are doing. Hang on, that's us. Oh, who's done that? Shomrei. Is that? Oh, that looks fabulous. Is that you, Alyssa and Arieh? Oh, Josh, beautiful. No. I love it.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm trying to find our za'atar. Be one sec.
We used sumac instead of za'atar.
Oh, also a nice thing. Yeah, you can do a mixture of sumac and sesame seeds. I mean, za'atar is sumac, sesame seeds, and hyssop. Is that possible?
Hyssop and oregano, I think.
Yeah. So you can kind of mix up your own things. Yeah. Have we got anyone else who wants to show us what they're doing? Josh and I have actually become kind of Facebook friends over lockdown, so we've shared a lot of cooking tips.
Sasha?
Yeah? Oh, I think there's a question. Would you say it again? You slightly broke up.
Breaking up.
Just hold it.
Which one did you say was better, sumac or za'atar?
Personally, I like za'atar, but if you haven't got za'atar, you could totally use sumac with a little bit of sesame seeds. Right, our 4.5 minutes is up. I'm just going to leave, you know what, these look nice. So we've got some nice pockets here. It's looking pretty good. I'm going to turn the oven off. So Darren is showing you how the pitta are looking. That was a slightly warm oven. So I could have done it at 220. Here is my, right, I'm just going to get a plate for our pitta. Here we go. So we have got 8 fabulous pittats here. The other thing about these is they actually freeze really well. So I just experimented this morning with freezing them not baked, but I think, that one looks very well done. But I think we've had success with freezing them baked. So they kind of defrost pretty nicely. So some beautiful pitates. I'm going to take this over here. Whoa, it's probably a little bit dark over here, but here we have some beautiful yotam asalenki pitot, the sweet potato falafel, and the hummus. I'm just going to show you what the pitta looks like in the middle. So give me 1 second. Let me get a little olive oil. Just put a little bit more light on. So, hey Josh, do you want to come try the pitta, sweetie? Yeah? Oh, was there a question? I couldn't hear you.
How many people? A lot of people.
Oh, I think I missed a question there.
You're muted. You're muted.
Hi, Josh. Sasha, look at our screen.
Oh, can you turn it around? Oh, I'm just having a look. Hang on. Oh, whoa. Hang on. I want to. Oh, hang on. Where have they gone?
Oh, you want to see?
Hang on, I'm just trying to find you. Give me a moment. Anthony Metzer. Oh, amazing.
I want to eat.
Tony and Louise, that looks gorgeous.
Thank
Beautiful platters as well. Right, we're just going to try our pizza. It's quite hot.
Yes, warm pizza, yummy.
So, warm pizza. So I'm just, most of these have got pockets. So, sweetie, can you just, so we've got a nice pocket here, which is perfect for putting your hummus and falafel in. I mean, these are,
yummy pizza, Mummy.
it's very hot, sweetie.
I know, but I'm hungry.
So, we did have, let me give you one of the,
It's one of the cool ones. There's cool ones.
Cool ones. It's cool.
There we are. So there is a cool one. Hey, do you want to tear it in half and show people?
Look, it's got, I took a bite out of it, but you can see there is pockets in it.
So it's got a really nice pocket. How is it tasting?
Oh man, it's great. I have it. Oh, it's so
Can I
good.
try a little bit?
Yes, Richard, do you want some?
Yeah.
There we go. So we're showing the crumb. See, this is interesting because I've done these like fast, you know, this is not the 2-hour rise. This is like a 25-minute rise in the kind of
And these are better.
hot oven. Joshy thinks these are better. Just going to have that with a little bit of hummus, bit of a late night snack. What do you think?
These are much better.
I would love to see how people's doing. Tony and Louise, yours looks amazing.
Okay, anyone else show us their systems?
How do I see gallery view? Gallery view, there we go. Wow, who's that? Whoa, Josh. Are you Shomrei Hadass, Josh? I think you are. Yay. Love that.
And Aggie.
Hey, really great job. They look beautiful. We'll definitely be coming around to your house.
You're welcome.
Has anybody got any other questions? I know we went a tiny bit fast.
This looks nice, I think, because of the
Oh, hello, Glenda. I would love people to unmute.
Hello. Let me just.
Oh, Glenda, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Oh my God, I love your hair. You look like 21. You look like 21. I love it. So, really nice to see you.
I must admit, the hummus was fantastic.
Thank you, Tita.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's lovely to see you in your kitchen.
thank you. Thank you. It's really nice to see you all. How did you get on?
Hey, Sasha,
Ariel, how you doing?
I'm trying to show you the outputs.
Oh, hang on. Let me just scroll. There's quite a lot of people here now.
And then there he is. Look. Looks yummy.
We're looking for.
Delicious.
I think he's Shomrei Hadass, Aryeh.
Yeah, I'm Shomrei Hadass, sorry.
Ah. How do I close that little?
Thank you, Sasha.
Oh,
Look,
oh, Ariel, I can see you're the other Shomrei Hadass. Looks amazing.
Thank you so much. It looks amazing.
Oh,
It's fabulous.
Hey,
Judith, yours is also
Hello,
gorgeous.
Michelle Goldschmidt. Nice to see you. Welcome back to London.
Wasn't very pleasant. Ask her if on the evening of October the
Wow,
8th,
you've
she
all
was in the
done a
farmhouse
great
near
job.
Godeville.
I've really enjoyed this. It's lovely to see you all.
She is a
And there is one other little thing
legal rights, but an
that I wanted
expectation
to
of
just.
human dignity. I ask you to
Sasha, we've lost you.
Just say I'll be back in 2 minutes.
Sasha will be back in 2 minutes, or less than a minute, hopefully.
I can see Josh and Becky enjoying themselves.
You're muted, Josh.
The next one we have to start at 7 because we're too hungry at 9.
Yeah, no, that's true. It does make it like a little bit late. Oh,
sorry, we've lost video.
Oh, Sasha, this pizza with it is
Hey,
fantastic.
Darren.
so I also made for Shabbat these like amazing chewy chocolate chip cookies. They're milchik because we're milchik. But if anyone wants the recipe for these, they are super easy and really delicious. And I feel this will be like a perfect meal. Kind of pitta, hummus, falafel, and a nice cookie for dessert.
Wow. Sasha, this has been amazing.
Oh, thank you. I have
Absolutely
really
lovely.
enjoyed doing it and seeing you all. It's been
It's
fabulous.
been very interesting to see it as well. Really enjoyed it.
I'm just
Despite me only
Lovely,
watching.
thanks.
Thank you, everybody. And I really, I think Darren and Josh and I really look forward to seeing you all in person at some point.
Sasha, thank you so much.
Sasha, sorry, we're way behind, but thank you. We're catching up.
A pleasure. B'tei avon, everybody. Thank you so much for letting me do this. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks. Hi, Sasha. Thank you.
Bye. Lovely to see you. Oh, hello, Joe.
Hello, I'm sorry, I'm
How are
way
you?
behind. Very well, but we're about 15 minutes behind.
I heard Ekdal was amazing on Thursday.
It was very good. We were, very blessed by lots of people doing fantastic work. It was really good fun. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you.
Hello, Robin Sue. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you, Sasha.
That's surprised that we didn't make the food because it's so yum. We have to make it another night. So-
Don't worry.